appears the facts are closing in on this disastrous White House, because it's not just the Washington Post and it's not just the United States of America and different states where President Trump may want to get some press and make an impact. The entire world is watching the United States, the people of the United States, fall to their knees, getting crushed by this virus. We're looking at the worst week ahead. And looking across the pond at Boris Johnson heading to the hospital, I want you to talk about that and how that is impacting the people there, but also how America is seen around the world right now as they are dealing with this pandemic.
So I spent the weekend speaking to friends and relatives in Italy, the UK, and even in Morocco. My sister lives in Morocco. And time and again, they brought up what is happening here. They're all watching what is happening here. And they're kind of flabbergasted, Mika, that not more is being done. They can't understand why the testing is so weak, why America seems to lack so many ventilators, so why on the medical side things are not going well. But the other thing that they're raising is they're saying, my goodness, you can go out, you can go to the park and go for a run still, you can go freely to the supermarket and people aren't wearing masks. I mean, they literally cannot believe that people are out in the numbers that they are, that there are areas of the country where people are still going to religious services in those states that don't have total lockdowns, with including religious services. I mean, all of this, they're looking at it like it's an amateur operation that is happening here. And it's becoming increasingly apparent that if we don't take more stringent measures now, countries like Austria that are opening up because they had really, really strict lockdowns. America hasn't got a really strict nationwide lockdown. And so this is going to go on much longer. We're going to see other countries around the world start to open up, start to get their economies back on track. But I think we're going to be a way behind because we don't have the testing and because our lockdown is not as stringent as it has been in other countries where it seems to be working. And on the thing about Boris Johnson, it's remarkable how the top of the British establishment has been hit. You've had Prince Charles, the health secretary, now Boris Johnson. We understand that he went in because his symptoms were persisting after 10 days of a high fever in particular. It's not clear, though, what the tests are actually that he needs in hospital, and that, of course, is worrying. We may be hearing more about that in the next hour or so. There's due to be some kind of statement coming out of Downing Street about that. And there was then, you know, on the upside, the Queen giving that remarkable 4-minute speech. She said more in 4 minutes than President Trump said in the course of his 2-hour press conference. And I think it is only Queen Elizabeth that has the stature in the world, who has lived through and worked through the Second World War, to be able to use the words she used so sparingly to bring not just the British people together, but really to appeal to the rest of the world when she said, look, we are all in this together and we will meet again on the other side. But she didn't sugarcoat it. She said, this is tough. This is going to be tough. She praised the health workers around the country. She praised people and thanked them for staying home. And I think, you know, in her spare 4 minutes at Windsor Castle, she probably did a lot more than most of our politicians have done in the hours they've spent speaking on television.
No, she is a remarkable leader. She showed once again what a remarkable leader she is, a public figure. The United States needs a remarkable leader, a remarkable public figure. And we just don't have it right now. It's very interesting. Caddy talked about the strict lockdown in Austria and other parts of Europe. On March the 9th, Donald Trump mocked state lockdowns. On March the 9th, less than a month ago, tweeting that the common flu kills thousands a year and, quote, nothing is shut down. Life and the economy go on. It will go away. Just stay calm. Again, less than a month ago. And Jonathan Lemire, you look at, again, all the things that the Associated Press, the Washington Post, all the things that other news outlets have gathered together. And what is so shocking is Caddy talks about how people are looking toward the United States, absolutely stunned that Donald Trump is failing so miserably when it comes to pushing his administration for testing. Donald Trump is failing so miserably when it comes to taking control of the crisis, and instead is using a pandemic to attack governors that aren't in his party. And most remarkably, as the Washington Post wrote yesterday, no country is better positioned to fight this pandemic. No country. When you look at our technology, when you look at our medical superiority, when you look at our scientific superiority, when you look at our resources, richest country on earth, no country was better equipped to actually keep this virus at bay. And yet it is the United States, through the failure of the administration, that will end up having more cases and losing more lives than anybody else, because even up to a month ago, Donald Trump was mocking governors who were shutting down their government. Now, there's whataboutism. You can say de Blasio said this, Cuomo said that. That's great. Guess what? Guess what? They're not running for president. They're not president. All right? If you don't like what they said in March, early March, and you're in New York, vote against them. I don't really care. Has nothing to do with me. I care about the United States of America. And when it comes to the United States of America, we had a president, Jonathan, that did nothing but play down this threat for 2 months. And we're bringing it up now because he's still acting reckless inside the White House.
He needs to step aside.
As we go into the worst week for this country, he's still acting reckless and unmoored. He still can't rise to the occasion in this, the darkest week that Americans will face probably since World War II.
The United States should have been ready, and it wasn't. The United States had the benefit of time, unlike China, unlike some of those Asian countries that surround China that were caught by surprise. The United States had time to be ready for this, and it was not. And in terms of there's still a distinct lack of testing, as we've been discussing. But also, let's flash back a couple of days. Jared Kushner appeared in the White House briefing room and talked about the national stockpile, suggesting that it was a reserve for the federal government and was not used to supplement states. It was not going to be used to help out the states. Its primary purpose, he said, was to have in reserve for the United States. That was very different than the definition of the national stockpile, except, of course, they changed the definition. The very next morning on the Health and Human Services website, they changed the definition of the national stockpile to reflect what Kushner said, that it would fall only, it's for the federal government, and it was not be explicitly used for the states. And we are hearing from governors across the nation how slow it has been, how slow and painful the process has been to receive ventilators, to receive respirators from that stockpile. There have been some states that have received enough, others not nearly enough. And it's clear the president is feuding with those governors where we are. And this can't be said enough. The Surgeon General of the United States yesterday said that, this nation was about to enter one of the worst weeks in its history. And one of the people who live here will face one of the toughest weeks of their lives. He compared it to our Pearl Harbor moment, our September 11th moment. But in neither of those times did the federal government take a backseat to the states. After Pearl Harbor, after the Twin Towers fell, the federal government rose to the moment. Was every decision flawless? Of course not. But it rose to the moment. There was certainly no suggestion that there was no reliance on federalism, saying each governor should make their own decision. But instead, that's what this president has done. As we face the crisis of this time, of this generation, he has taken a backseat.
And the president just keeps lying, saying that the federal government's not going to get in the way of states bidding for materials. It's happened time and again. They do. They drive up the price. They take the materials. They seize material from Massachusetts. It's the federal government is competing with the states. They're taking everything they can take, and then they're actually getting up and saying, "Oh, we're not going to compete against the states. Oh, no, we're all in this together." It's another lie.
And getting in the way of the process.
Getting
of
in the
saving
way.
Lives.
Yeah.
Still ahead on Morning Joe. Unlike other states, Delaware closed its beaches weeks ago. It was a huge hit to the economy there, but the governor says it had to happen. We'll talk to John Carney about that decision straight ahead. But first, on Saturday, President Trump said hospital administrators are, quote, thrilled with the level of supplies. That's
another lie, but you know it's a lie. But we just have to, since we read the script, it's an obvious lie. Donald Trump's lying just about everything now.
That's not what they told a government watchdog. NBC's Ken Delanian has new reporting on that. And there's a lot of confusion about face masks after the White House urged Americans to wear them, even as the president refused to wear them. Our chief medical correspondent, Dr. Dave Campbell, breaks it down for us. We'll be right back.
The next week is going to be our Pearl Harbor moment. It's going to be our 9/11 moment. It's going to be the hardest moment for many Americans in their entire lives.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.